Now for Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. The first cutscene is Amy hits a metal pole with her hammer, and then a burst of blue energy comes out, which is the bare bones explanation for why Sonic and Amy suddenly have cool fire and ice powers. Which I have to assume rewired their brains so that they know they could do them now. It makes as much sense as Sonic instantly knowing that he can fly after he went super for the first time. Tails somehow saw the whole thing from his plane on the ground in a different area. Satellite cameras? Why would he have those? I hate how the cutscenes in this game have no subtitles. I have to assume the reason she froze it when she didn't have to was to show off. Then they should have had Sonic lampshade that. It's about comedy, so he could have a joke. The dialogue is so generic and devoid of charm that I don't really care about it. The heroes meet a tiny orange robot, which Amy responds to by obnoxiously breaking the fourth wall. They did get merchandise. Tails says there's potential world-ending consequences. And he says that the communicator absorbed the energy, and he uses his technology to spread the fire and ice magic to everyone else's communicators. He says because science, which isn't really something a genius personally would say. That comes off as something a non-genius writing a genius would say as a tame parody. So the fissures gave their communicators magic. It's a very thin explanation, but at least it is one, because this is a world with Chaos Emeralds in it, so if emeralds can be magical for no apparent reason, why can't fissures? It's something I would consider to be a lazy, easy to come up with explanation for a character getting a special power, but it's much better than nothing. So I would accept it as an explanation for a character who doesn't have special powers getting one permanently, like Amy. Amy could get these powers in the main series.
The dumb plan is a race. You'll have to leave town.
Styx calls Defect an adorable robot, and it's actually Swedish she treats him like a pet like that. I don't know why she didn't act like that with him in the Sonic Boom episode, written by the same guys. Tails annoys me. Not only did he have to go out of his way to call the robot that, since he corrected himself on what he was calling it, but it's unlike a sweet mechanic like Tails to call a robot a thing. There's no reason he wouldn't call it robot instead. And Styx insists delusionally that the robot loves her despite it trying to escape from her and stuff. Styx is supposed to be crazy because she's paranoid. I mean, her being conspiracy theorist is because she comes up with conclusions out of nowhere, so that is in character. But it's not in character for her to assume someone likes her for no reason. She's negative, she would assume the opposite. If I don't talk about a cutscene, it's because I don't see any value in it. It was interesting seeing Styx stand up for Defect still. In the sense that a train wreck is interesting, it's still annoying and confusing. And it was really irritating how Sonic just said that robots have about as many rights as his toaster, and none of his friends aside from Styx, who were supposed to see as wrong, call Sonic out on a dick-headed response. Granted, Defect is the villain, they should be tracking him down. But they look like jerks because they're being dismissive of him because he's a robot, not because he's doing bad things. Nobody wants the Sonic characters to be neutral characters who are only fighting the bad guys for fun and not because they're actually good people with compassion who want to save people. The cutscene where Styx puts a tracking device on Defect is just enragingly written. I mean, really? She accuses Tails of tracking her for no reason. And when he says she'll be with them, she says, "Or will I?" I don't care if it's supposed to be funny. Making a legitimately mentally ill character the butt of a joke is uncomfortable. And then she makes it so fucking obvious that she's tricking Defect, saying it's totally not a tracking device and she's not up to anything. And she acts all afraid of him. And rather than taking it off right away or attacking her in the meantime, Defect just walks away while keeping the tracking device on. If only it was explained that he didn't do anything against her because he likes and trusts her, and knows that's a tracking device, but doesn't care? Why is Styx the only nice one in a group of heroes? You'd think with all the jokes about Amy being feminine in the show, Amy would have been a much better fit for this. Styx did like Buster, so it's going off that, but that was out of character too. She's a wild person who hates technology. Defects from Eggman because I guess he was fed up with him. Eggman did blame him for leading the heroes here and called him worthless after all. The only reason he wouldn't have killed the heroes instantly with that kind of power is he was holding back, which could only be out of sadism because that would end the fight too fast. Because that's way too overpowered an ability to give the villains. And the fact that he can even do it at all is just magic, not science. Why do the fidgets have fire and ice magic in them anyways? Well, Dark Gaia. Maybe the Boom Dimension has a fire ice guy in it. Makes about as much sense as Eggman making a robot to attract Ragnium just for him to attract everything but by accident. That could only make sense if he was making him with magical witch potion ingredients and accidentally used the wrong ones. He was yelling at a robot and he looked at the wrong thing. Eggman whines about how Defect ruined the mine, and shockingly, Eggman actually apologizes sadly to Defect, saying that he just wanted his love. This would only make sense if he was intentionally trying to manipulate him. It flies completely in the face of him seeing him as a rejected robot in the episode that's a sequel to this, where he just didn't even want him around at all. Tails says that now thanks to what he's done, he's as harmless as a puppy. And Eggman's reluctant to admit that. This wasn't as bad as the Shattered Crystal plot. It wasn't as overloaded with lame jokes. But the plot events are still pretty forgettable. The important plot point is memorable. But a telekinetic robot is really ridiculously overpowered. And it should have been explained how he didn't win instantly. There's one plot point that's engaging and cool, and it stops being cool the minute you see what he looks like. The fire and ice powers are cool, but they're just there for a gameplay mechanic. There's barely anything cool about the plot. It doesn't leave an impression. The other 2D Sonic plots are better, because at least they have animals being put in Badniks. Because that's something you only think about the Sonic series doing.